We got a special guest today, David Duford from the Dig Agency. We're going to be talking about burial insurance, final expense. And for those new to my channel, you're probably wondering, wait a second. I thought this was a Social Security and Medicare type thing. It is. But this also involves that. I've taken hundreds of thousands of surviving spouse claims, and unfortunately, one of the things I do is I help people make sure their loved ones are protected through Social Security. One of the things a lot of people miss is that when you pass away, your surviving spouse does not get two full checks. A lot of people miss that, and they're unfortunately very, very shocked. And the fact that, so if you want to, if you got any questions about that, I'll be more than happy to talk about that today. But we're going to have David Duford talking about burial insurance, final expense, it's also called, because Social Security provides $255. And David has been in the field for quite a few years. And have you ever seen anybody be happy to receive that $255 or to actually be effective at anything other than a complete waste of money? And
Ed, I don't even think you can get a cremation with a Folgers can done for $255.
Yeah, not even a chock full of nuts one. If I was old school chock full of nuts. Anyway, okay, so David, and one of the problems is I've seen way too many times people don't understand the calculations for survivor benefits for Social Security. And I've seen way too many people when they came into the office and I took their survivor claim and they were just going through the nightmare. They had some type of life insurance, burial insurance, whatever the case may be. The company they picked wasn't necessarily the greatest one, and they were jumping through crazy hoops and being denied. And the deceased person thought they had everything set up. So I've seen that too many times. So that's why my son and I reached out to David, and he was kind enough to say, hey, and I know he's got a phenomenal reputation, so he takes care of people. So David, what does everybody need to know about burial insurance final expense to make sure they do the right thing and they take care of their loved ones?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, there's a couple of things to be, very concerned with. We all want to get the best deal, right? That only makes sense. But there are circumstances where even with companies that have been around, they're very good companies on the surface. They're actually providing plans that aren't going to protect you as well as maybe some other companies do. So one of the things we recommend to people looking for any kind of final expense burial or final expense life insurance is to deal with a broker. A broker is somebody who shops around to try to find the best combination of price and coverage, and it can avoid some of these, frankly, calamities that can happen if you end up buying the wrong type of life insurance and you find that it doesn't do the job that you want it to do.
Yeah. And ladies, put down there, cremation for my dog was $300. Yeah. So even more than the $255. Okay. So, what do you suggest out there? So a broker looks at all the companies. So an agent, a traditional captive agent, it's kind of like the, I think it was Henry Ford. You can have any color of car you want as long as it's black. So if you call a captive agent and they work for XYZ, whoever, that's what you're going to get, XYZ. A broker looks all over the area, and each state is a little bit different, right?
Correct. Yeah. But the idea is, it's like, think about it like you're buying a car. If there's two different dealerships and they've got the same vehicle, but one is less expensive down the road than the other one, you want to get the other one that's down the road, all else equal, right? And so that's kind of, in a sense, what a broker does. Maybe even better, because they have access to all of the different options that are out there. Because one thing people don't quite understand is that not all insurance companies look at your health the same. Some might be more sensitive for diabetes. Others may not even care. And it's only those who have access to those multitudes of options that can search the underwriting to see and make a custom tailored solution to the individual. And the outcome very often is that the prices can be substantially less. I mean, we've seen people save hundreds of, sometimes thousands of dollars a year in their life insurance, depending on how much they get, simply because they chose the route of going the broker route versus the captive route. And then in some cases, as we'll probably talk here shortly, they may get a policy that fully protects them from the first payment date. Whereas there are policies out there that literally make you wait years before you're covered for natural death. And so many people have no clue about this either.
All right. So, who needs it, and how do they start the whole process? What do they need to watch out for to make sure they're not making the wrong decision? Because, essentially, unfortunately, that's the kind of decision that the person makes while they're still out there alive and kicking, and they think they've got it all locked in. And when it actually kicks in, they're no longer there. Obviously, that's the nature of the entire system. And then it's obviously too late. So we want to make sure people do the right thing from day one. So who needs it, and what are we looking at for how they should start the whole process?
Well, as Benjamin Franklin said, there's two things that are certain in life: taxes and death.
Yep.
So if you're going to die, that's all of us, and you're worried about any kind of final expenses left behind to a son, a daughter, a spouse, a loved one, and you're just frankly concerned that maybe at that time in the future, whenever that'll be, that you won't have sufficient money on hand. Well, this is the kind of plan that would perfectly take care of this. Okay. So if you're the least bit concerned, it's probably a smart move to have some kind of protection in place when that time does come. And then what was your other question, Ed?
So how do they get started on that? So if you've got, this is not for everybody. If you've got, $1 million in your bank account or under your mattress or something like that, then you're probably good. But if you don't, then this life insurance, burial insurance, final expense insurance is probably something good you just might want to check out, correct?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you're well off, financially prepared, and the money world's been good to you, you probably don't need the burial insurance option. But if you're not in that boat, you're concerned about having $10,000, $15,000, sometimes more, depending where you live, then this is the kind of solution that can solve it for, in many cases, if you're dealing with a broker, of course, a reasonable monthly fee.
Okay. All right. So, how much are we looking at? What type of companies do you recommend out there? Obviously, they're different based on states, and that's one of the things that this is one of the number one reasons my son and I reached out to you, David, is because on our live Q&A we do on a regular basis, people say, hey, I just got this thing about this new state program for burial insurance and taking care of things. Is that Social Security related? What's going on? Is this actually a state program? And what's up with it? Are these state programs sponsored by the state, issued by the state?
No, this is just marketing language. In other words, if you get these, y'all get your mail and you see these junk mail and it says you may qualify for a new state regulated program. That's what Ed's talking about. That's just a life insurance solicitation, folks. It just sounds a little bit more fancy. And the idea is that these agents are hoping that you'll respond to them. And sometimes you send it back and they're good agents, and they offer, and sometimes they're broker, sometimes not. You really don't know what you're getting because you look at the piece and you're like, I don't know what this sounds like. It sounds like it's a government thing, but maybe it's not. I don't know. And they'll see what happens when you send it back in. Now, if you do that, you may never be left alone with phone calls and people rolling up to your door and knocking on it endlessly. Yeah. So, caveat emptor, as they say. But it's a mixed bag. It depends. It can be great. It can be the exact opposite.
Yeah. Because all insurance is regulated by the state. So whether you have car insurance, home insurance, burial insurance, whatever it is, it's regulated by the state. And so some of these agencies out there, they'd say, hey, this is a state regulated, plan. And so you think it's state regulated. And a key point you mentioned there, knocking on your doors, Medicare. So we're coming into Medicare season. If you ever get someone knocking on your door talking about Medicare, you definitely shut the door, because that is 100% illegal for them to knock on your door. When you go to a big box store and you see the little ask me about Medicare, they can't talk to you first. You actually have to ask them about Medicare. There's so many regulations when it comes to Medicare, but when it comes to burial insurance, they can knock on your door and meet you in the parking lot and say hi and stop you and they're not as regulated as much, correct?
Like Groundhog Day, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
So don't send that card back if you don't want these agents knocking your door down. Is what that's doing.
Yes. Okay. All right. So those are who needs it, and to watch out for kind of the some of the marketing tricks out there. So what's good out there for people? How should people start the whole process? Obviously, I've got your number up there, so definitely someone asked how can you contact them. Definitely you contact that number there, and you tell them what state you're in, and what kind of things do they go through. How does the whole process start?
Yeah, it's real simple. You just give us a call. Number's above me, and you'll talk to one of my representatives. They're all licensed. My company's licensed in all states but Massachusetts, as well as licensed in DC. Our Massachusetts license is just about to get approved. A bunch of hoops to jump through with Mass. But regardless, getting a quote is easy. You just call in, let us know what you're looking for. We're going to ask you some questions to help us help you better, to help kind of solidify exactly what you want your policy to do for you, who you intend it to go to, kind of envisioning how you want this to be set up. And then we'll ask you some very brief, to the point health questions to get an idea of what you may be able to qualify for. We won't get too nosy, but we'll ask a good bit so we can have a clear idea of what your options are. And then we'll go into our quoter and then plug all that in, and then outputs the half dozen or so companies we represent. And then we'll say, hey, looks like this company is the best option. Here's the price. Here's another price if you want a little higher. Here's a little lower. And by the way, the only thing we care about, Ed, is making sure our clients, in this, whether you do business with us or not, guys and gals, you want to get something that's easily affordable. The worst thing you can do is be pressured into buying something that's too expensive, and you like know in your gut it's too much. Because I rest assured 6 months from now, when it's, or it's almost Christmas time and it's time to get presents, and, you don't want to have to drop your policy and waste all that money. So for us, we will not get you a policy you are not 100% sure you can afford, because it's just a waste of your money, and it's not good for the companies as well. So long story short, that whole process takes 10 minutes. And then what you do with it's up to you. If you like it, great. If not, you can hang up and go about your day. We'll help you if you need it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. That's the affordability is the most important thing. Yeah. Because they can't cancel you as long as you keep paying, right?
Right. Yeah. That's what's neat about these policies. So these policies have a premium lock, so the price can never go up. So what you're quoted at, as long as you're approved, and by the way, approval is immediate. Typically it's right then and there over the phone. And you don't have to wait on a follow-up call, but that premium is locked in place for the remainder of your life. There's a lot of plans where the prices go up unexpectedly at the worst time, typically when you're older and you can't afford it. But these plans, they stay in place the whole time, and they last your whole life. So that's important, because other plans terminate because you reach a certain endpoint in your age. Again, about the time when you need it, and you're kind of to that life expectancy is when it gets canceled. The other ones do, but ours, as long as you pay, you have the same exact policy from the moment you started it. No price.
Yeah, when you're young. Yeah, that's it's always been told to people. It's like, yeah, when you're young, don't get a whole life. It's a waste of money. Get a term life, because you just want to get over that hump and make sure everything is good while you got kids and all that kind of stuff. But term, it terminates. So if you got it for 5 years, you get it at 60 years old, and then 65, it terminates. So you got to get a whole new one, right? So for burial insurance, whole life is definitely the way to go, because they can never cancel it. And in your case, the ones you recommend, the prices are not going to go up, right?
Yeah, they're locked in place. And that's, my mom's in her, how old is mom now? She's 68 now. Good Lord. Time flies, I tell you what.
Yes.
And she's in that same boat. And that's the plan that I recommended to her. Is we got her 1 year ago, and it's been around $50. It never can go up. It's in the contract. It stays exactly the same. And that's the kind of policies we help our clients with as well.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're looking for $100,000, it's probably going to be, a bit expensive. But if you're looking for just kind of burial insurance, cover the last medical bills, perhaps some credit card debt or something like that, you can get it $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. The most important thing is get something, as you mentioned, that you're going to be able to afford this year, as well as next year, as well as 5 years from now. So yeah, because if you can't afford it, if you buy something, yeah, I'd really like to leave my, my kids or whatever spouse, $250,000. And so, okay, if you can afford that, for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that's one thing. But if not, yeah, no, you should definitely get something that's reasonable. Okay, what about this? So $995, that's pretty reasonable, but not so much, I guess, right?
That old fine print that gets them, I tell you.
Yes, yes. So tell us about that.
So I'm sure the audience is well aware, or probably heard of Colonial Penn. It's Alex Trebek used to be the person that endorsed it. God rest his soul. Now it's, I think, Jonathan Lawson. Anyways, they've been around for as long as I've been in the business. Back in 2011 is when I started. We started my company in 2013. And what Colonial Penn offers is this $995 per unit plan. And when I used to visit people in person before, now we do everything over the phone remotely. That would be a common question we get asked. What is this unit thing? What can I get life insurance for $995? Kind of sounds like, what's the catch? And what the unit is, the answer to the question is it's $995 per unit of coverage. Well, what is that unit of coverage? Well, with Colonial Penn, it just simply depends on what your age is. And it's very unlikely that the amount of coverage per unit is going to be sufficient to cover a basic cremation, unless you're really young, or even a burial. And what I could do, if it's okay, Ed, I can share my screen.
Yeah,
and
go
I
for it.
Show you kind of what I'm looking at here. So let me click the button here.
Someone says, when you're dealing with people over the phone or online and you ask them if they are captive or a broker and they say broker, how do you know if that's true, if they really are?
Hey, Joe. Yeah. Ask them which companies they represent. So follow it up by saying, okay, which specific companies do you represent? They should be able to rattle off a couple of different companies. Like if you called my company and you said, okay, who are you with? We'll say, we work with American Amicable, Mutual of Omaha, AIG, SBLI, Trinity Family Benefit. Like we can give you this list. And then the next thing, if you really want to grill them, is like with us, you could do it to us. We're fine with it. We'll run you a quote and then we'll mention a company, and probably one of the ones we mentioned. You could say, okay, what about another company? And then we can do a side-by-side comparison right there for you just to prove it to you. So that's how you kind of trust but cut the cards. And that's a fine thing to do because they're agents who say they're brokers, but they're really just pushing one typically overpriced product that benefits them more than you. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen. So
Brian says, sorry, we were calling this guy on his vacation in Bali. I think they're talking about your shirt there. But Dave is going to be leaving us in a little while. He's got to go pick up his son at football.
I'm in
right?
Tennessee, y'all. It's Tennessee. Far from Bali.
That's right next to Bali. I'm sure you got some good surf there.
I'm looking more and more like, dressing more and more like my dad every day. Let me put it that way. All right. So y'all see my screen here? So this is
there we go.
This is a little ChatGPT research here, but this is showing you what the units are per plan in case you're curious, because they don't make this like clear up front. And so, for example, on the middle column here where it says male coverage, if you're a male and let's say you're 60, then each unit's going to give you this much in coverage, $1,167. So if you do quick math, if you want to round enough to bury you, probably about 10 or 11,000 is enough to do it. So you're going to have to take 10 units times $995. So in this case, you're going to have to pay $99.50 and you'll get $11,670. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's kind of like a dozen eggs. It's you're buying each individual egg. You want a dozen? Okay. So you're buying one egg times 12 if you really want the dozen eggs, right?
Right. And of course, as you are older, it goes down. If you're 70 female, as opposed to say when you're 60, instead of 1515 or 1,515 in coverage per unit, you're getting 1,000. And that makes sense. That's typical of most life insurance. The older you are, it's going to be more expensive. Granted, there are policies that are less expensive than Colonial Penn, kind of to jump ahead a little bit. But the moral of the story here is that you can see they do offer coverage. It is per unit, but you have to do the math. And what you'll find is it becomes very expensive just to get a basic plan with Colonial Penn because of how many units you have to buy. So I'm sorry, y'all. It ain't $995 It's a lot more.
Alex Trebek.
I know, Alex, but come on.
He was a Canadian. You know, come on. When you're a Canadian, you're supposed to be super
That's
nice and
why.
awesome.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let's be honest.
All right. We'll forgive him for that. Okay. So, knowing that, so when when people call you, what do they average in terms of the actual face value of how much their loved ones are going to be left with if something happens to them? What are your typical ranges?
Yeah, let me pull this up. I'll just look at our little guide today because I'm kind of curious, just to give you some examples of what's happening right now. Today, let's see. Sometimes they put the amount of coverage down. Usually they don't. It can be as low as a couple of thousand in coverage if you're just strictly interested in a cremation. And again, you don't want the fixins and all the extras. A couple of thousand is all you really need. Now, if you're young, if you're 50 and you're thinking, well, what about inflation and the prices? You probably need more than a couple thousand. So you might want more like 5 to 10,000 to adjust for that. So we see policies low like that, but I would say most of ours are 10,000 to 15,000 in coverage, give or take. But some go higher than that, some go lower. It just depends on the needs. And again, what we're most interested in is getting you what you want and then making sure that it is completely comfortable for your budget. Because, you can have the biggest policy in the world, but can't afford it. It's all for nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Angling King says, hopefully you can help on this, David. Can you please confirm this is true or false? Veterans can qualify for a free burial in a national cemetery, grave marker, and additional benefits through the VA.
All right, Ed, help me on this. I think you can get the spot at the National Cemetery, the container, not the casket, but the container that goes around it. And then I think that's it. So you still have to pay for the funeral home service. You have to pay for the casket and the preparation. So there's definitely still a cost. It's a decent benefit. It's way better than the 255 benefit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not complete. There's still going to be more to it that you have to pay. So don't expect like everything's taken care of. There's going to be an added element to it.
But some of it, is covered by the VA. I have to check more into that because I know those policies change on a regular basis, and I'm an old Marine Corps sergeant. I guess I should know that, but I'm trying to put off that day as long as I possibly can, if that's possible.
Yeah, now there's benefits if you die in the line of duty.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
That's completely different.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about honorably discharged vets, it's similar to what I described.
All right. Perfect. All right, and the fact still remains, even if you have that part covered, even though it's called burial insurance, a lot of people get it for other purposes, just to leave a little bit for their kids or something, in case they have any credit card debt, or they realize that, hey, at that time I'm probably going to have some, medical debt type stuff, so I need to leave something there as well. And I tell the story every now and then. I had more than a few people that had life insurance like that, and they said, "Oh yeah, burial insurance." Well, it's not for burial. It's not for medical debt or anything like that. There's a separate thing for that. But I put it in there that my sisters and my kids and my wife, once I kick the bucket, then it's a all expense paid trip to Hawaii. They should all go to Hawaii together and enjoy life, and and remember me, and sip on some Mai Tais or something. So people use it for some interesting reasons. So I always thought that was a good idea. So
yeah, you as the person purchasing the policy have complete control over who you want the beneficiary to be. It can be a loved one. It can't be a random person. It's got to be a blood relative or somebody close to you. You can just leave it to your estate. A few people will leave it to a funeral home, but we find that most people just would rather trust a beneficiary as somebody they can trust and love to take care of that, and then take care of matters with that money because of it.
All right. So what else do people need to know? So when they call you, what type of preparation do they need to know? And what's obviously, and they should kind of figure out what type of monthly budget they can afford. Not only, again, not only this year, but next year, 5 years,
Yeah.
look at their Social Security check, whatever pensions they have, the savings, and try to figure out, okay, maybe I need 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, $30,000. And you can also pay some companies. I think you can time the payment around your Social Security check or something.
Yeah, it's really easy. We typically set up the auto draft to come out on the date of your Social Security check. There's some flexibility there, but most people appreciate that because they don't want it to come before, because there may not be money there for some. But timing it towards when the money comes, because this is a bill you want to make sure is paid. We can custom tailor that to you. As far as how much preparation you need to have before you call, I would recommend for those interested, just give us a call. Let us have a conversation with you. If you're not interested, we're not going to harass you about it. But a lot of people can kind of know, and if this is you, I would definitely recommend you call. If like in your gut, you should probably take care of this. That's the reason you're feeling that. Give us a call. We'll work out the details with you on the phone. And then it's up to you what you do with it. So that's part of our service to help you kind of sort through kind of what's been swirling in your head about what you need to do. And you should do it, but you haven't.
Yeah.
Because you've been putting it off. We'll help you with that.
Yep. That's I've got a few thousand things on that bucket list that I need to do. I need to do update my passport and all kinds of different stuff. Paperwork.
Yeah.
So so there's the number there, and I think you need to take off and go pick up your kid at football, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Ed, for having me, and all y'all out here watching. If we can help you, just holler at us. Give us a call at the number above. We generally have business hours between 9 and 6 p.m. Eastern, but we have sometimes people working earlier and later. So just call us anytime. And if you don't get us, either leave a voicemail or our auto attendant will schedule you for a call back. It's really cool. So if you just feel like this is something you need help with, call us. We'll be there to help you out, and we definitely look forward to talking with you.
All right, perfect. I should appreciate it. And everybody else, stick around. I'm going to stay here for the rest of the hour. And I'll go ahead, and someone looks like they wanted to figure out what that survivor benefit. It's not 2 checks, it's 1 offset. So I'll do those calculations for everybody. But we'll go ahead and let David go. We appreciate it. You take care of yourself.
Thanks. Bye, Ed. Bye, y'all. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. So in terms of survivor benefits, let's get into that. Someone wanted to find out about that since I kind of talked about that a little bit. Okay, so for survivor benefits, I've seen this way too many times. It's very unfortunate. A survivor will come into Social Security and they just lost their loved one, and they're already, it's distraught and terrible situation. And then I would have to be the bad guy, unfortunately, in some of these situations and say, okay, you're going to be losing some money every single month. Why is that? Because when you've got a married couple, and let's say the person that was recently deceased, they were receiving a couple $1,000s a month. Okay, and you as a spouse, their surviving spouse, was receiving $1,000 a month. So in the household, $3,000 a month was coming in. Okay. And then the higher earning spouse passes away, and people think, they've heard that when that person passes away, I will get their check. That is correct. But here's the problem people miss, is the end of that is the fact that, yes, you will get that check, but it's minus yours. So last month, the householder was receiving $3,000 a month to pay for the mortgage and food and all that kind of stuff. And then the following month, they're only going to receive $2,000 a month, because you do get that higher $2,000, but yours is subtracted for you. So from that, you get your $1,000 plus you get the difference between yours and that person's, which is $1,000. So you're getting $2,000. So you pretty much lost $1,000 of monthly income coming into the house. And that was always the worst. I mean, I hated having those conversations. So please share, like, subscribe, tell everybody that fact, and that way they can at least prepare. And then there's a few people in here that said they never got the $255. And, I know it's embarrassing. $255 has been like that since the 50s, actually. But if you are entitled to it, then you should get it. There's a kind of a 2-year, limit. If you didn't get that $255, it's automatic. It goes to the surviving spouse. The actual spouse that lived in that household. It doesn't go to divorced spouses. It goes to the actual surviving spouse that lived in the same household, because it's supposed to go for, the burial, insurance, burial needs. Or it goes to the surviving children if those children are on benefits from that person. So if you've got a child under the age of 18, or children that became disabled before the age of 22, then they are eligible for that $255. Adult children, anything like that, no. Divorced spouses, no. So if the surviving spouse is the higher wage earner, then you're not going to get any extra money because you're the higher wage earner. But you still need to contact Social Security to get that $255. It's not automatic. It's only automatic if you are the lower earning spouse and you're already on the record of the higher earning deceased spouse. So basically, here's how it goes. If you got a higher earning spouse, lower earning spouse, if the lower earning spouse is already receiving benefits from that deceased spouse, then essentially the benefits switch automatically. It's called an auto convert. If you're past your full retirement age, everything is automatic. The report of death from the coroner's office or the funeral home in that particular state, it goes to the state. The state sends it to Social Security, and then Social Security tells the Department of Treasury. They switch it over. They switch you over from spouse benefits to surviving spouse benefits. Spouse benefits, you get up to 50%. Surviving spouse, you get up to 100%. And then it automatically kicks out that $255 if the addresses are the same. So if one spouse does, if the husband and wife move and only one address is updated, they don't update both of them, then sometimes that $255 doesn't go out because that person has to be living in the same household. So if you're a husband and wife, make sure anytime you change your address, double check to make sure the address needs to be changed in 3 places. And Social Security employees often miss this. Your new address has to be changed on the higher earning spouse's record, plus your record on that higher earning spouse, and it has to be updated on your own record. So 3 different places. So yeah, that's Social Security employees. Sometimes they do the 2 on one record and they forget to do it on the other one. And that kind of messes stuff up, particularly with like Medicare or something like that, because Medicare, it's like, hey, you've got this different address and they send you something and you don't get it. So just kind of inside baseball kind of trick there to make sure you get what you're supposed to be getting. Let's see, Richard, Part B will be 207 in January 1. That really sucks. Thank you, Big Beautiful Bill. No, I don't think it's necessarily the Big Beautiful Bill. It's just the regular update. I think, yeah, the Big Beautiful Bill has got other terrible consequences for everybody. I don't think it hits Medicare, the premium yet necessarily, because it just passed and the official Medicare premium hasn't come out yet. So the official, there's estimates, but I don't think it necessarily will affect the Part B premium. It's going to affect a whole bunch of other stuff. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, it's definitely going to affect that. If you have a Medicare Part D plan, it's definitely going to affect that. If you have private insurance, it's definitely going to affect that. So yeah, there's a bunch of negative stuff that is definitely happening around that. And if you need help with Medicare, make sure you reach out to our partners there at Chapters so they can help you out with all of that. 255 is a joke. It's supposed to cover health deficits. Yeah, it's been like that since the 1950s. It is. Yes, it is a joke. Let's see. Darcy, the other day you commented that 7 to 8% of Social Security comes from the trust fund. Why will it be cut by 23% when the trust fund is gone? Are there that many baby boomers yet to retire? Yeah, we've got about 10,000 baby boomers every single day that are retiring. So more and more and more people are going to retire. And so, 7 or 8% or so this year, 9, 10, 12% next year. And then it's just by about 2033, yeah, Social Security checks are going to be cut by 23%. We've been told this for decades that that day is coming. And we have said, okay, I guess we got decades. We'll fix it later. And later is here. And politicians don't seem to be wanting to do anything to do that. So, Dr. Ed, some families don't qualify for SSI burial insurance like my family when we applied back in 2016. Yeah, there is no such thing as SSI burial insurance. SSI is a welfare-based program. It doesn't cover burial insurance. Maybe you think the Social Security burial insurance, the $255. But yeah, if just like everything with Social Security, other than SSI, Social Security retirement, SSDI, survivor benefits, spouse benefits, child benefits, you actually had to pay into the system. So same thing with that. It's called the lump sum death payment, the $255. If you didn't pay into the system, then yes, unfortunately, then you're not qualified for the $255. So can't afford most insurance. I've insuranced out. Yeah. And I've seen David, there's that 995, which now we know how that works. But there are smaller ones, but yeah. Most important thing, and Abby is a regular here, so I think she's got everything she can from Social Security. So at least in that respect, she's set up. A lot of people aren't getting what they're eligible for from Social Security, but since Abby is a regular, I'm almost sure that she's getting all set up in that. She's got everything locked on there at least. Terracotta, I'm on a train right now and soon to arrive at the station. Maybe I will have some pizza. Okay. All right. Terracotta, Terracotta Warriors. Are you in Xi'an province where the Terracotta Warriors from the first emperor of China are? Is that what your train is? AI is a great tool to use for obtaining specific answers to difficult topics like this one. Yeah, I've been using a lot of AI recently, and yeah, for easy stuff, it's easy, but for more difficult stuff, it's terrible. Oh my gosh. I got lucky, gave me a life insurance, $100,000, a lot and at $200 a month. Wow. So hopefully if that's a term, then that means it's going to terminate here pretty soon. And then that's usually the thing. And it's like, oh yeah, I've got this much money. And sometimes, with life insurance, when you're young, you get it just in case, you got the mortgage, you got your kids and stuff like that. And just in case something happens, you've got something there to take care of everything. But once the kids leave the house, if they ever do leave the house and you got your mortgage paid off, then there's no use sometimes to paying for that $201, particularly if it's a term type thing where it's going to terminate anyway. So, but it's a personal decision. So. My father has several life insurance policies and Social Security also added in. My mom has life insurance too, thankfully. Awesome. Yes. I mean, life insurance, all that is not for you. It's for someone else. I respect the business, but burial or even life insurance for me personally never made sense. Okay. Yep. I've had people that they said it would jinx them. Says, no, I don't want to. If I do that, it will jinx me. I guess they've had some issues in their life and so they decided no. Yeah. Yes, you have to apply for it. It's not automatic. When my dad passed, we didn't get it. It only goes to surviving spouse or minor or disabled children. That is a fact. The only time it's automatic is, as I mentioned, if you're already on that record as a spouse and your addresses are exactly the same and everything matches up. Then if that's the case, then 99.9% of the time, it automatically you automatically get switched from living spouse to surviving spouse, and that $255 automatically goes out too. Super easy. So I know this is not the topic. I just read about 300 million American Social Security number. Yeah, the New York Times article. I was just reading that before we started, and I'm going to do a video on that. It's strange in the article. Again, people don't know Social Security. Writing stories and talking about Social Security but anyway, it seems like it's a good article. But they mentioned it was the Numident, but then they said the addresses, but addresses aren't on the Numident. But I'll do a video on that one in the next couple of days. That's a big one. Can we call dig agency to go over a plan we already have? Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a good thing to do, across the board. If you have any type, Medicare plan, burial insurance plan, see if there's anything better, because you might have some fine print in yours you don't know about. And David and his team knows about the fine print. And so they can say, oh yeah, that's a great policy. But did you actually, the only way they're going to pay out is if if you pass away when you're cliff diving in Acapulco. Other than that, so I don't know if that's one of the policies, but anyway, but definitely call them up and they'll check it out. Don, ex-spouse, we were married over 30 years. He is 59, but on disability. I will turn 62 soon. Can I get ex-spouse benefits? That person, if they're on disability, normally they have to be 62 years old, but I would reach out. You have to file for benefits on your own record first. So he's on disability, but not you. So you file for benefits on your own record, and then because he's receiving benefits, you should be able to get benefits off his record if the calculations are correct, in the sense of your benefit amount. Once you start your benefits on your own record, which you do have to, you start benefits on your own record. And then if your full benefit amount is less than half of his full benefit amount, then yes, you will be able to get that difference. So cremation with no viewing and a box of ashes is about $700. Save your money. Yeah. But all the other stuff, right? All the life is what happens while we're making other plans, right? If dear Presso can bury his ex-wife on his golf course and get total tax breaks, then we should be able to do that darn well. Yeah, so break into the golf course at night, and so not sure. I am not advocating that. Don't talk to strangers, stranger danger. Yes, okay. Sounds like a strangers are the stranger than strange. Okay, this sounds like a Jim Morrison The Doors sound. Strangers are strange. Yeah. When you're a stranger, right? When you're dealing with people over the phone or online, you'd ask them. Okay, all right, we already answered this one. Let's see. After paying for many funerals of family, I learned to pay in full and got all the paperwork. It isn't fun, that's for sure. That is a fact. So. Let's see. The guy told me they have added thousands of phone operators just recently. Things aren't as bad as Dr. Ed says. Are we talking about Social Security? Well, they fired thousands, so they relocated, they laid off, forced out of the agency thousands. And what they did is, because phones went crazy because of that, they took a lot of people from the back end, they closed the regional centers, and they put those people on the phones. And no, those people, they are really good at what they did. They are specialized in the regional processing centers, and they did, adjudicate A101s and, did MDWs and PCACs and all this kind of stuff. But they were not directly helping out all the questions with general customers calling in. So yes, is that going to help in terms of people picking up the phone? Yeah. Well, it's not, because they fired thousands and they replaced it with thousands that don't. Yeah. So are they going to pick up the phone quicker because they add those thousands? Yes. Are you going to get correct answers? If it's that particular person specialty, if you throw the dice and you happen to get the right person that happens to work in the area that you're asking a question about, yeah, you're probably going to get a very good answer. But anything else, no. I would have never put those people on the phones. So personally, but They're just looking for metrics. They're just looking for answer rates so they can, make their, PR thing and says, oh yeah, we answered, AI and people that don't know this, that, and this other that don't normally handle the phones. Yeah, they picked up a lot of phones, and therefore we're picking up the phones. So, but yeah. Let's see here. How do I get my sister to get her to know that she thinks that Trump kicked off 275,000 illegal aliens off Social Security? Yeah, I did a video on that a couple, 3-4 days ago. And again, anytime anybody in the social media says the Social Security database, they don't know what they're talking about. And they kicked off 275,000 people from the Social Security database. Okay, so people that worked at Mar-a-Lago all those years because they brought in foreign workers under a visa program because they didn't want to hire people in the community, make America great again. So you can look on the INS or on the immigration website, and you can see all the people hired by Mar-a-Lago and Trump International and Tesla and stuff like that from outside the country and brought in on visas and given Social Security numbers. So those people, all those thousands of people that worked at those places, and hundreds of other places throughout the years, they came over, they worked, and then they left the country. But Social Security still has that Social Security number sitting there, and the person hasn't passed away, so they can't close it out. So it looks like they just closed it out, which doesn't save one penny, because no money is paid out from that record. So it's just, yeah. And what's interesting is President Trump just announced he is going to give out 600,000 Social Security cards to non-citizens. He's going to allow 600,000 Chinese students coming over from mainland China to study in the United States, which I think is a good thing. But those people are going to get Social Security cards, and they're non-citizens. So, whatever happened to that? So. Let's see. For people on public assistance, if you get whole life equals cash value and could lose benefits. Term has no cash value. Good. Yes. Good. Thank you, Jerry. Yes. If you're applying for SSI, supplemental security income, if you're applying for Medicaid, food stamps, TANF, Section 8 housing, and whatever the case may be, and you have a whole life insurance policy with cash surrender value, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $100,000 cash surrender that you've accumulated equity in that thing, then they could very well deny you. So, but term life insurance is just there is no cash value in there. The only time you'll get cash is when that event happens. So, so what price action are we thinking on NVIDIA stock? Okay, I'm not sure. If I have life insurance through work, can I get a lower premium if I buy additional? No, I don't think that's. Yeah, I would call David about that, but I'm thinking no, they don't take other. You can, if you've got a life insurance through work, and you just need a little bit more, then that in and of itself would be a lower premium because you don't need that much extra. So. Any advice where to invest $130,000 in cash before I take out Social Security, $4,200 a month? No, I don't do that type of stuff. But if you're going to start your Social Security, that has zero relevance to Social Security. You can still have $130,000 in cash or $1 billion in cash. Social Security, if you're talking about retirement benefits, they don't care. That's, Social Security since 1935 has wanted you to have personal savings and pensions and all that stuff. So it doesn't affect your Social Security at all. So might affect your Medicare Part B premium and your Part D prescription drug premium. If you take out cash, if you, sell a house or something like that, sometimes you might have to pay a higher Part B premium for a year. It's called the income related monthly adjustment amount. So you're right. They need people in the office. Social Security cannot run itself. Yeah, and it's definitely can't run by AI. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it all AI, and AI is just not there yet. So maybe in the future replace all the people, but then Social Security is going to be even dire straits because if you're single, no one can hold your children responsible for your debts after your death. Creditors can go after your estate for payment, but no one else. Um, yeah, you go after your state, but in some states, yeah, they come after your house, and if you're at a nursing home or something like that. If there's some states as well that can come after your children. If you have, this has come out recently, in even larger news, because a lot of people are going to get kicked off Medicaid. So they're nursing homes, and people are in nursing homes, and the nursing homes are going to be in really, really tough situation here because they're going to be losing that Medicaid dollars, and they've never really made a whole bunch of money in Medicaid. It's always been just barely keeping the doors open. But now all those people are going to lose Medicaid, and they're going to be cutting back on payments to these nursing homes. And in some states, if you have a parent that is going to be kicked out and homeless, yeah, they can come after the children. They can 100% come after the children. So, will the 600,000 students from China be eligible for Social Security? They will be eligible for Social Security cards, just like anybody that comes into the United States legally. They are eligible for Social Security cards. They're coming under probably an F1 visa, a student visa. So they are eligible for a Social Security card if they show that they're going to be working. So if they work on campus or some type of trade type stuff, intern type stuff, paid internship related to whatever they're studying, then if they're going to be making money, then yeah, we want them to pay taxes. And because they're in the country legally, they have a visa. Social Security issues them a Social Security number, and they pay taxes, including FICA, payroll, Social Security, Medicare. They, as long as they're only on that F1 visa, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, when they turn 62 years old, they can't get Social Security benefits. No, unless between now and 50 years later, they change their status and they become permanent residents, not just on a student visa, but permanent residents, or they become U.S. citizens. But most, don't. They, study here, graduate, go to graduate school, get their PhD, whatever. Some go back to China, but one of the great things is some of them say, hey, America's a pretty awesome place to live, and they stay here. And they brought all that phenomenal education that they received in China, added it with the American educational system. And a lot of the companies and the technology and biotechnology and computer stuff was built, designed, developed by people that came from all over the world and came to the United States and figured out how awesome we are and decided to stay and keep all their expertise and make our country even better. So that's a beautiful thing. My sister just lost her husband last month and lost that $1,000 you just mentioned. Yeah. Hopefully they knew about that and they prepared for that. Hopefully they're not one of those ones that didn't know about it and thought they were going to get both checks. If that's the case, yeah, Social Security needs to do a lot better at notifying people of that reality, because it happens way too often. But hopefully you are a regular here and you have heard that before and you pass that on. That's what our community does here, is they get information like that out and help people around them. So I would rather not get the 255 and have my wife at a different address. All right. Thank you for posting these for replays. I truly appreciate it. And you do. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Once I finish this, YouTube automatically makes it into a regular video. And sometimes if it's really interesting topic, I cut the first topic part out, like the first 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and I make it a separate video, because some people say, I'm not watching you for an hour. That's usually my wife that says that. But anyway, does it make a difference if you care for an adult disabled child who is also receiving benefits on the deceased parent's record? What do you mean by difference? A difference in if you care for an adult who is also receiving benefits on the deceased. Well, the adult disabled child is probably, if we're talking about adult disabled child, the DAC benefits, which is called a disabled adult child, DAC benefits. They are it's not also receiving that's DAC benefits are by definition receiving benefits from a parent's record, because the parent is receiving retirement benefits, disability benefits, or is deceased. So yeah, those are one and the same. But if you're talking about burial insurance or something like that, yeah, let us know. We've only got about 5 more minutes here. Let's see. Did the U.S. Supreme Court rule to stop Social Security or Medicare? Nope. If your spouse is in a nursing facility, even for a long time, Social Security will give you the 255 at another address. Yes. But it's not an auto convert because you got a different address probably, unless the address Social Security still has is, if you're the representative pay, it's still the address. But yeah, if there's a different address, they will. Yes, they. Thank you for that, Pink Owl. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. It will not auto convert. You will not get the 255 automatically if you're on that record and you have different addresses. But you are still entitled. You're eligible to collect that $255. You just have to go in there and get it manually and file a claim. Thank you for Pink Owl. You guys are awesome. Always looking out and make sure I explain things fully. So not auto convert. It's not an automatic thing that you get the 255 if you have different addresses, but that does not mean you're not eligible. You are still eligible. You just have to go through the extra, claim. So thank you. If 7 years ago the FICA cap was lifted, we would be in better shape. 7 years would really help approaching baby boomers retirement. Yeah, that I think if I remember 7 years ago, that would have been 100% fix for the next 75 years. But every year we wait, it's less. So I think this last year when the actuary did the calculation, it was about a 73% fix, which is still pretty awesome. So, but every year we wait, yeah. I'm at a pizza place now. Okay, someone is traveling around. Oh, okay, this is the one that's on the train. Okay. Well, SSDI benefits stop if I sell my house and that money is in the bank. Nope. Social Security, disability insurance, SSDI, no relevance whatsoever. You can sell your house for $1 billion, put that in your bank, do whatever you want with it. Doesn't matter. Won't affect your SSDI at all. Might affect your Medicare Part B premium, but it won't affect your SSDI. So, terracotta Chinese food sounds really good right now. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, speaking of the terracotta warriors, the reason for those terracotta warriors, the first emperor of China, Shang Huangdi, he was the guy that China was named for. His place was called China, CHI. Now it's spelled QIN. But anyway, the terracotta warriors, the reason they were built, those thousands of terracotta warriors, those big ones, they've all got different faces and stuff. It's kind of like, Mr. Potato Head type stuff. If you change this, you've got, thousands of different variations. But anyway, the reason the terracotta, little Chinese history, the reason the terracotta warriors were made is because he, throughout his life, the first emperor, a lot of battles, he had a lot of enemies. And he says, when I pass away, when I go to heaven, then all of those enemies that I vanquished are going to come after me. So he made those terracotta warriors to be there in the afterlife to protect him, to have an army in reserved. Yes. So, but he thought he changed his mind. He says, well, you know what? To prevent that, I'm just not going to die. So he went all over the place trying to find places to come up with some type of elixir so he would live forever. And one guy said, if you take this, you'll live forever. It's really cool. It's shiny. It was mercury, the stuff in the old thermometers, mercury. So the guy was ingesting mercury on a daily basis. And so he went loco. And so there's that. So a little Chinese history you thought you never want to hear. So, but there it is. All right. We are at an hour and I appreciate y'all. I'm going to be talking about if you or someone are going to be filing for benefits, retirement benefits in the next few months. A lot of people are missing money, so I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow. I'll talk about the 600,000 Chinese students getting Social Security cards. I'll talk about the possible data breach, and those are on the topics for the rest of the week. I've got my work cut out for me, and hopefully y'all have your work cut out for you by sharing all this information, going out to your community and making sure people get the benefits they're eligible for. Got a lot of people out there that are really, really struggling, and they need to get every penny they can from Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all government programs. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We've got the best community on the internet, and that's what we do. All right. All right. Y'all take care. Have a beautiful